South African education is in crisis. The 2016 World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Report rated the value of primary school education in South Africa as 126th out of 138 countries scored. After a brief stint at third last in the world in maths and science education, South Africa has descended to dead last in the world this year. And the sample of business executives surveyed determined that an inadequately educated workforce is the third most significant factor preventing other businesses from investing in and opening in South Africa. Altogether, the Global Competitiveness Report gives a strong indication that international leaders in business do not believe that South African students are adequately prepared to productively contribute to the South African workforce or to the entire global economy. But we didn't stumble into this position. We know that the legacy of apartheid haunts South Africa's students and South Africa's economy. Not only did an inadequate and inequitable distribution of resources since the Bantu Education Act damn our students of color in South Africa, but it has set back white South Africans as well. The American civil rights experience shows us that the oppressor is as disadvantaged as the oppressed, who is doomed when there is a lack of racial and socioeconomic diversity in our schools. Segregation in schools creates a metacognitive and academic deficiency in our students. What we need to understand is that students who are in segregated schools, whether the result of law or circumstance, very rarely successfully demonstrate those skills needed to participate in today's globalized society. Now, let's not fool ourselves about where the fault lies. This is not a crisis of human capacity. This is not a crisis of financial resource. Remember, this year, the education sector was allocated 298 billion rand in the South African economy. Let me put this into perspective for you. In 2012, the World Bank ranked South Africa as 10th in the world for percentage of government expenditure on education as a percent of total GDP. And let's be very clear, South African educators and students are not inherently deficient. In fact, they are wildly capable, and they are caught in the crosshairs of a leadership crisis of note. South African education institutions, whether public or private, do not trust South African educators. They do not invest in sufficient professional development or leadership development to ensure that South African educators can drive student achievement. And the South African national curriculum, which is used by both public and private schools, does little to challenge, to stretch, and to equip our South African students for the globalized society that they are entering. There is a lack of leadership and direction in South African education in both the government and private sectors, and it has stunted the growth of South African students, and it will stunt the growth of South Africa as a whole. Noted author Stephen Covey wrote, "I have become convinced that the biggest leadership challenge of our times is not insufficient resources per se, but rather our inability to access the most valuable resources at our disposal." And in this vein, we must refuse to characterize the crisis in education in South Africa as a demand to create more from less. Instead, what we must do together is to leverage the significant resource that we have in our highly capable South African educators and our highly competent South African students. We must create more from more. At SPARC schools, a network of independent primary schools founded in 2012 in Johannesburg. Our South African children, nurtured by South African parents, taught by South African educators, led by South African school leaders, are beating the odds to reach globally competitive standards. How? Well, I wish I could tell you that what we do is exclusive or expensive or exceptional in some way that prevents others from doing the same. That's not the case. At SPARC, we simply aim to execute the right things in the right way in order to build a solid foundation for student achievement. And here's our secret. We teach core values as deliberately as we teach algebra or reading comprehension. We believe that the values children learn will drive them to, through, and beyond school, and propel them into globally engaged citizenship as adults. We believe that strength of character is what drives student achievement, not that character should be developed in the weeks when time allows, after assessments are done and summer's coming. Now, core values and social emotional development are rarely part of the curriculum of a school, but at SPARC, we put demonstration of core values on report cards. We speak to parents about core values at conferences, parents' evenings, and enrichment events. We encourage students as young as 5 to self-reflect on the development of their own core values. Students at SPARC have performed extraordinarily well as compared to elite students in South Africa. In fact, we were so confident in their performance that last year we asked Pearson South Africa to administer a released version of the annual national assessment for 2014 because nationwide testing was canceled in 2015. And not only that, we asked them to administer it for the next grade level. We had our grade 1 students take the grade 2 assessments in literacy and maths. We asked our grade 3 students to take the grade 4 annual national assessment in literacy and maths. And when we compared their results against the results of students in quintile 5 government schools, the most expensive government schools in the country, we found that our students' average scores met or surpassed the average scores of students who had taken that same assessment in their own grade level. That means that our grade 3 students met or surpassed the average of grade 4 students in quintile 5 government schools, significantly more expensive, taking the assessment in their own grade level. Even our grade R students, generally considered to be early childhood development, surpassed grade 1 students in quintile 5 government schools. I'm enormously proud of what our students do academically, but I'm completely delighted that because we emphasize core values, our students are terrific friends, loving family members, and positive contributors to their communities. Core values are so integral to our identity that they make up the acronym SPARC. And our students literally wear them on their chest when they dress for success every morning and put on their school uniform. First, service. At our daily community gathering, our students pledge to serve their classmates, their community, and their country. They participate in meaningful service projects, most recently cleaning up a local park, collecting and distributing water for those who are affected by the drought, and volunteering in a local orphanage. Closer to home, however, they do the very important work of assisting their struggling peers. Our students commit to learning about and bettering South African society in the future. And every year on Heritage Day, our students come dressed in their family's cultural attire. They share food and traditions because these young people understand that service to country begins with the recognition of the beauty of diversity. Second, persistence. We buy into the value of grit for both our staff and our students. We believe it's the key to achievement. In our blended learning model, which is a combination of traditional classroom teaching and technology, we have specifically chosen programs that emphasize failing a certain amount of times before you succeed. And we only hire staff who have a track record of persistence through challenge, both personally and professionally. Third, achievement. In our daily creed, our students promise to achieve their best in all that they do. Uniquely at SPARC, we celebrate Youth Day as University Day in our schools. Our students at all of our campuses spend the day imagining their path to and through tertiary education and into a career of their choice. Our students have an awesome example in our staff members who are chosen from thousands of applicants every year and who work unbelievably hard to drive student achievement. Fourth, responsibility. Now, this strikes me as especially important given the state of politics in South Africa and in my home country and in the world. Can you imagine a generation of students becoming leaders of South Africa who every morning of their school career have promised to be responsible for their own actions, who hold themselves, their peers, and even their teachers to account? Our students are well-versed in tools for conflict resolution, and they can use their words not just to speak their mind, but to apologize. Fifth and finally, kindness. There is nothing soft about kindness. Our students are not just nice. They treat their peers with dignity and respect, and they understand inherently that the value that a human being has absolutely nothing to do with the color of their skin or their social, emotional, or socioeconomic background. So we are partial to our core values at SPARC, but what matters most about a program of values is their implementation. And I think that brings us to an important question, which is, why don't other schools adopt the same approach? Well, it's hard. An implementation of a core values program requires an intentional, conscious effort by an equally intentional and conscious educator. And the infusion of core values at SPARC is not an accident. It is the golden thread that runs through hundreds of hours of professional development, daily social emotional development for our students, and most importantly, the culture of our organization at large. Now, I moved to South Africa in August 2012. And I naively was convinced that South Africa would become the first country in the world to eliminate education inequity. I am thrilled to report to you that 4 years later, I am not naive anymore, but still completely convinced. South Africa is a remarkable country. We cannot fall prey to the myth of insufficiency or not enoughness in our education system. Instead, with courage and with confidence, and most importantly with gratitude, all of us must commit to the very difficult work of ensuring that all students have an opportunity to have an excellent education in this country. Thank you.